So now let's consider the issue of pelletization and the difference between boiling and the pellets. Because in fact, we found some interesting information about the paddy straw pelletization in the literature. The scientists obtained quite good results in terms of durability, in terms of the pellet stability. Of course, the problem is that we need to control the biomass moisture, and sometimes we have to add the starch or another additives. Also, we find some interesting information that, as you know, the paddy straw has a problematic content of the chlorine and the sodium potassium. So one of the remedy is addition of the kaolin. That is a remedy against the ash-related issues. So they also show some procedure about the preparation of the paddy straw pellets. But the question is if it is really the optional, the best way to choose, because we have to say that as Mr. Marek mentioned in the beginning, the baling maybe it will be more complicated for the power plant, because a new transportation injection system is necessary. It needs probably the higher investment cost for power plant, but it would be easier for farmers. Pelletization is not necessary. In the opposite side, it would be easier for power plant, but more complicated for farmers. So the social economy issue must be taken into account. Just a brief information about the paddy straw burning as I mentioned before, in a real scale, because I find the two papers. In fact, first is application of the rice straw, paddy straw in one Brazilian power plant. The capacity maybe is not so high, but it is, let's say that the real operated units, the paddy straw share was 10%. And the second application is quite a small facility, but one paper claim about the facility for paddy straw drying applications. It can be used in the farmers. However, it creates some pollutions. They have not the very sophisticated cleaning system. So, but I just want to show some solutions found in the literature. Just concluding about the paddy straw properties, it is very high ash content biomass, high chlorine content biomass. Some people try to torrefy it, obtaining good results in the chlorine removal from the paddy straw, but we have to say that it is lab scale, and the torrefaction, as Mr. Marek mentioned, costs money and needs some very specific the cleaning system. So currently it is only under let's say scientific consideration now. Well, now let me say something more about the simply and forgotten properties, just to let's say refresh our minds. Let me show some very simple experiment, the Brazil nut effect. So this is the instant coffee you can see inside here. The instant coffee, and let me put inside the sugar. You can see it's very clear. The instant coffee is in the bottom side, right? And the sugar is in the top side. So let's shake it more and more and more and more and more and more. As you can see, this is not magic. The coffee, instant coffee, is the top side, and the sugar is in the bottom side. We call it the Brazilian nut effect. It can happen in the power plant. Let's imagine that the instant coffee is the biomass and the sugar is the coal. So, but we need well-fixed biomass, well-fixed the mixture of the biomass and coal. So the bulk density play important role in the transportation and storage. I just want to say about that. Another issue is the biomass properties can be not uniform. The example of the transportation, they put maybe from the different sources, or just want to cheat it. We don't know what was the reason, but I just want to say more. Pay attention about the impurities in the biomass, because according to our experience, it can be really found in the biomass that was taken from the farmers. Is not only the concrete, is not only the plastic, but also some military, let's say, equipment. Also the mixture of the pellets with the plastic, also the mixture of the biomass with soil, sand, even bricks, even concrete. So in our opinion, it is sometimes forgotten, but it can, let's say, destroy every idea, impurities in biomass, according to our experience. Okay, now just brief explanation to remind the difference between the co-firing or firing system in the power plants. Maybe for engineers is very obvious, but let me share some knowledge about that. Fluidized bed combustion. So we consider the fuel storage, transportation, and intermediate tanks. The crucial point is the crushing and shredding. So we prepare the particles as the size of between 1 to 10 millimeters. And after that, we introduce the biomass into the boiler, and let's say it behave like a boiled water. The sand is mixed intensively inside the water, the boiler, and create fluidized bed. Let's say fluidized bed material. The second possibilities is the pulverized boiler. So the fuel transportation and intermediate tanks in a simplified way can be very we can say that it is almost the same, but the important difference is the mill, because the mill prepare the particles to obtain very small, between 20 and 200 micrometers. It is less than 1 millimeter, very small one. So it can be a challenge for the biomass preparation. And the last one is a Grate boiler. We've already mentioned about that in a previous webinar. The fuel transportation and storage. And the important point is the crushing. We prepare the fuel size of the diameter more than 10 millimeters. But the question is, if we would like to apply the Paddy straw in the power plant, what happened? What happened in the transportation first, transportation and storage chains? So we consider a few, let's say, problems. First is, let's say, the shape the size of the biomass. It can be base, briquettes, or pellets. The second is the issue of transportation of storage, or how to make the smaller particles, so that is comminution. Important point, separation of metal and stones, milling, if we consider the pulverized boiler, and the feeding to burner. So this is the first scenario of co-firing. Let me say something more about
Janusz, just one clarification question. So for pulverized boilers, milling is necessary, yes?
Necessary, for sure. The particles must be lower than 1 millimeters, approximately between 20 to 200 micrometers. It's you can see that it is this is the point. We have to use the mills, in fact.
Yeah, okay. I'm asking you because most probably pulverized batch power plants are the most popular in India. So most probably, and actually our, let's say, pilot project power plant is a pulverized. So actually it should be kind of your recommendation if you would like to directly burn biomass in this power plant to install the mill, which is quite expensive actually.
Yeah, it's I forget about that. The pulverized systems can give the more capacity, in fact. So this is why they are not more popular comparing to another ones. But let's first consider the first scenario. So we use the bells, not pellets in this scenario, but you can see the two options, in fact. First is the steps of comminution. So we have to shred it, in fact. We can use small particles. In fact, it's not pulverized, but is more or less 1 millimeter or even less, and we can directly inject into the boiler. Wait a minute, I don't see. Oh, we can directly inject here into the boiler. However, the biomass share in such scenario can be not higher than 3%. But if we apply another biomass mills, you can see here, and after that we can feed the biomass into the biomass burner. It's not a simple nozzle, it's just a specific burner. We can increase the biomass share. Let's compare the advantages and disadvantages of such a solution. The main advantage is the cheaper biomass, for sure, because pelletization cost. We have independent feeding system, so we can stop the biomass stream every time if you wish, if you notice that some problems exist in the boiler. But the main disadvantages are you have to prepare the specific transportation facility, and in such solution we have to pay attention of the safety issues, because we don't assume some very specific security systems. But the scenario, the second scenario, is also simple solution. We assume that pellets or briquettes can be applied, but as you can see, the pellet stream is directly introduced into the coal stream, and they are mixed in the auxiliary or secondary tank. this solution doesn't require a very specific investments. However, the main disadvantage of such solution is that we have not control we cannot fully control the biomass stream. If we add the biomass into the tank, we have to use all the biomass that already was filled in this tank. But as I said, it's very simple solution and the simplest way for power plant. But the combination of such a scenario can be considered. If we have already prepared the biomass feeding system, we can apply the pellets or briquettes. In such system, we can increase biomass share up to 20%. But of course, we have to spend more money to the installation and spend more money for the biomass, because the pellets cost more than bells.